Hogan Gidley is with us now from our Washington bureau. He's a CBSN political contributor and former communications director for Governor Mike Huckabee. Hogan, thanks for joining us. Interesting day. Politico is calling this Boehner's revenge. What does this do for the NeverTrump Coalition?
I don't know that it has any effect on it at all, except it points out the fact that some of the establishment types like John Boehner are beginning to soften on Donald Trump and are coming to grips with the fact he's most likely going to be the nominee for the party. This fight between John Boehner and Ted Cruz is something that's been bubbling up behind the scenes for years, best I can tell here on Capitol Hill. And now it's out in the forefront. Now that Boehner's gone, he can speak a little bit more freely. You're seeing some of what he thinks about Ted Cruz, but honestly, from everybody I've talked to, a reporter I spoke with actually this morning had been on Capitol Hill covering it for 26 years, told me she'd never seen anybody more hated in her life on Capitol Hill than Ted Cruz. Now, what's interesting about that is Ted Cruz has done a pretty good job being able to martyr himself amongst most of the rank and file Republicans, saying, see, that's because I'm the only one fighting. They hate me because I'm the only one fighting. But let me let the Republicans know something here, to be aware of this. There's a big difference between being a martyr and being a pariah. And Ted Cruz has made that shift from being a martyr into being a pariah in the fact that nobody wants to deal with him, nobody wants to work with him, and it's been shown. And all the things he talks about, for all of his bluster and all his bravado from that podium, he has been able to accomplish absolutely nothing in D.C. for conservatism. He's done nothing for the cause, but he's done plenty for the Cruz. And it seems as though the chickens are coming home to roost for him tonight.
Right. He's trying to say that this just shows that he's not part of the Washington cartel that's ganging up against him, and he's trying to make a positive out of it.
Which he's relying on to try and win the nomination, by the way. At this point, he's been bashing the Washington cartel since he got in the race, actually since he got in the Senate. The sweet irony here is he has no path to the nomination but for the help of the Washington cartel, so it's very interesting.
What do you make of his response? He said Boehner is allowing his inner Trump to come out.
I mean, he didn't have much else to say. He's getting beaten pretty badly in a lot of these states, coming off of a 5-state sweep where he didn't even win a single town. John Kasich won 7 towns, and Ted Cruz won nothing that Tuesday night. And look, it's just a difficult path ahead for Ted Cruz. There's someone here who was very clear and said if a candidate does not have a legitimate mathematical path to the nomination, they should get out of this race. He was speaking, of course, about John Kasich. The problem is he made that comment just a few days before he became mathematically ineligible from getting the nomination. So I wonder if he's going to take his own advice and get out of the race. It doesn't look like he's going to do that.
It doesn't look like it. He put out his first campaign ad featuring his new running mate, Fiorina, and let's take a look at some of that.
Ted Cruz is a conservative, a fearless defender of the Constitution who's taken on Washington and won. He's tested, trusted, and ready to lead, and I am honored to join Ted Cruz as his running mate.
All right, so what do you see as the broader strategy there? I mean, is it appealing to women voters? Trump's called Hillary Clinton crooked, repeated the claim that well, anyway, what do you think about that ad with Fiorina?
Carly, she has a good delivery. She's very smart, very good on her feet. She delivers one-liners. They don't seem quite as contrived as some of the other candidates, although they are, like most of them. What's interesting about this marriage, if you will, between the two is that they were pretty at each other's throats during this process. In fact, I wrote down some of the quotes that Carly said about Ted, and she made the comment about the government shutdown, by the way, that it was foolish because Obama wanted the shutdown and Ted Cruz played right into his hands. I'm sure he got name ID and I'm sure he got money out of it. One thing's for sure. He'll say one thing in Manhattan and another thing in Iowa. He says whatever he needs to get elected, and then he's going to do as he pleases once he gets in office. So what's interesting about that attack is she basically hit him on 3 fronts. She said that he was just he was a fame seeker, he was a money seeker, and that he was a horrible political strategist who got outsmarted by Barack Obama. All the things that people of the Ted Cruz detractors think about him is that he's somewhat skeezy. They'll do whatever it takes to get elected. He'll take whatever position it takes to get him votes, get him favor. She's the very one who perpetuated that during the primary process, and so it's kind of ironic now that she's the pick for him. And one other thing, he has to win Indiana to stop Donald Trump at this point. What's fascinating about that is Carrier, one of the big corporations there, is leaving Indiana, And Ted Cruz selected a candidate like a former candidate like Carly Fiorina, who was a former CEO, who was hit repeatedly on the campaign trail for outsourcing jobs.
Right.
It's a tough marriage to make, especially in a state like Indiana that he's got to do well in. Ted Cruz, I mean.
All right, let's switch over to talk about Trump a little bit. He called Hillary Clinton crooked, as I said a few minutes ago. He repeated his claim that Clinton is playing the woman card, which, I'd like to know what the woman card is to begin with. Do you think he's field testing his general election attacks?
I think so, and I think the woman card might have been a little bit of a misstep. Look, he's taken on Hillary Clinton basically 3 times so far in this race. The first time was when Hillary Clinton called Donald Trump a sexist. The beauty of the attack that Donald Trump levied back at her was, in old Republican politics, the conventional warfare would be someone like Mitt Romney, who brings out his binders full of women and says, look at all the women I've hired over the years, look at how many work on my campaign. What Donald Trump did was went right back at her and said, I don't think you're the person, or Hillary Clinton is the person to be talking about sexism when you consider who her husband is and what he's done to women. Well, for 4 days, all we did was talk about if that was fair game or not, if Bill Clinton's past was fair game. So he completely changed the narrative right off the bat. It was a nice attack. The second, of course, is calling her crooked Hillary. I think that lands really well, too, because it's not sexist. And what it does is, the one thing that she's having trouble with, as we all see in the polling, is that she's not trusted. Bernie ties her directly to Wall Street. Most Republican voters even are angry at Wall Street. Democrats surely are. And so that crooked moniker was actually basically formed by Bernie Sanders. Donald Trump just put a nice little bow on it and present it to the American people in a moniker that they can remember. The third is the one you just mentioned, playing the woman card. I think that's a little bit off base. I think he missed. But of the 3 fights they've had so far, I think Donald Trump has bested her directly 2 out of the 3.
Well, Ted Cruz and John Kasich announced an alliance of sorts over the weekend. Kasich won't campaign in Indiana, Cruz won't in Oregon and New Mexico, but boy, it seemed to fall apart almost immediately, and it now seems officially dissolved. Let's listen to 2 pieces of sound. First, here's Carly Fiorina speaking after Ted Cruz picked her as a VP, and then Ted Cruz with reporters on Thursday.
The majority of Republicans do not want Donald J. Trump as their nominee. Donald Trump has lost. Yes, he's racking up delegates, so is Ted Cruz. I actually think the person you should be asking this question to is John Kasich. He didn't get the memo. When you can't win, you need to get out.
I recognize that the media is all eager to talk about an alliance. There is no alliance. Kasich and I made a determination where to focus our energies. So John Kasich made the decision in his own political self-interest to withdraw from Indiana and to go compete elsewhere.
That lasted about as long as a Vegas marriage. Is it fair to say that the alliance is officially dead?
It appears so. Look, it was ill-timed, it was ill-conceived, and it was absolutely poorly executed. If they were going to do this, the only way they could do it right would be to come out and actually show some force and be on message with each other. It happened from the get-go. They walked out there, and Kasich was in Indiana saying, you should vote for me after this collusion, and Ted Cruz got out there and said, no, you should vote for me. It was goofy from the get-go, and the problem with the Never Trump, the Stop Trump, or this agreement that these 2 candidates had, the problem with those movements is this: it's clunky on its face because it's not pro anything, it's not for anything, it's just against someone else, and that's a tough sell for for the American people. It's definitely a tough sell for Republicans, and when you look at the vote totals, Donald Trump has about 3 million more votes than Ted Cruz does. He just passed the vote margins, numbers, that John McCain received in the primary process. He just passed the vote totals that Mitt Romney received in the primary, and he's actually pushing the world record of all Republican vote getters, and that's George W. Bush in the primary. And if things keep going the way they're going, he's going to beat that and eclipse the George W. Bush numbers. So it is very clear. However many people that Carly Fiorina thinks don't like Donald Trump, more of them don't like Ted Cruz.
All right, Hogan Gidley, thank you very much.
Thank you.